March is Social Work Month, and we've had the pleasure of going on an informative, insightful, and creative journey with over, I think, about 20 plus social workers at this point, exploring the profession of social work. It's a field that is traditionally known for service and advocating for change, as well as humility, which has contributed to it being an undervalued and probably underpaid profession. But the voices we've heard so far has really elevated our understanding of the field, as everyone has shared their stories and the barriers that they've had to face or even just break as social workers. And today we get to add one more fabric to that story. But first, let me introduce myself. Hey everyone, I'm Amanda Fludd, a licensed clinical social worker, speaker, therapist, business coach, and curator of this audacious project, interviewing a social worker a day for the month. And our guest today isn't just a social worker, but is also an approved clinical supervisor, a brain spotting consultant, and owner of Thriving Well Holistic Wellness Solutions in Norfolk, Virginia. In addition, she's really just put like a holistic twist on this idea of serving and healing, and is a master Reiki healer as well, and a yogi. So excited to just hear how all these pieces like melt together. Welcome, Miss Latoya Nicole Edwards.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
For sure. So we're going to go all the way in, right? And thank you so much for taking the time out to be here and, especially doing all that you do. It's awesome to hear your voice, I think, in this story as well. So now, what does breaking barriers mean to you?
It's layered, actually, kind of similar to what social workers are, right? So I feel like we are constantly breaking barriers. So I think of breaking barriers as more of something that's like we break barriers down that prevent people from living their most fulfilled or most enriched lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be on an individual level, that could be when they're in a crisis, whether that be food insecurities or lack of affordable housing, or even accessing for, women's rights, what I'm saying, and goods and equitable healthcare. Those will be some like barriers too.
Absolutely. So there's like this spectrum, right? Because I'm accessing services. And as you were talking about, I was also thinking even just like emotional access.
Yes.
Okay. Because maybe I'm okay in that realm, but it doesn't mean I'm okay in like how I see the world, or, how I think about things, or how my emotions show up, and whether or not I can manage that, right? How I show up at work. So there's all these complexities of how we can show up on that spectrum, help folks out. Love it. So now, can you tell us about your work in particular, which has really taken like this holistic whole body approach to healing? How do you see that breaking barriers, or see that work breaking barriers?
Yeah, so I tell everyone that I am a holistic psychotherapist. So I merge holistic services with the body and the mind. And so for that, especially when you're dealing with like trauma or work with individuals of color or non people of color, right? I tell people sometimes it will show in our bodies. And I tell people like trauma, our body will respond before it even hits our brain, right? And so our body is telling a language and a story to us. And so by merging some of these holistic practices and having this conversation to say, okay, what part of you is feeling this way? Or even able to explain, okay, did you realize that you're responding in this way? And this is what it's connected to. And so it really allows not only the body to tell the story, like, the book, The Body Keeps the Score, right? But then also allowing them to utilize their words to break down what they're feeling. Because oftentimes, like we're talking about with breaking barriers, like, a lot of people don't like to talk about their feelings or emotions, right? Or if they were brought up and raised to not share that. So they're thinking this is normal. They're going about their everyday life thinking, oh, this is how everybody goes, until one day they talk to me and are like, oh, that's not normal.
Right. People don't do that.
Right. So, and then also too, I tell everybody like, holistic work, it's infused for me, it's African centered and indigenous centered social work practice. And by that, we're using things like, it's a spiritual aspect. Like, I utilize drumming and EMDR. So, really getting you to feel what's going on and to really release that dormant energy out of your body, right? And through like Reiki, for example, Reiki is, I tell people, if you go to church, depending upon what your denomination is, they always say touch and agree and reach out, right? right?
Right.
So through Reiki practices, right, I'm literally able to just kind of feel through and see where there might be unpleasant spots and where that may have probably affected you. And
Mhm.
then it allows me to then talk things out on that psychotherapy level on how we can continue to break those barriers and break down where there's disconnect with you.
So my mind goes to there's more than one path to healing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess culturally, because you speak a lot about communities of color, we really get to embrace that within the
Yes.
space of healing, which may be different, and I think even important for people to hear because there's still so much stigma around
Hmm.
this work, right? So if you could even speak to that, do you find that this approach is more welcoming? Do you find that, more folks are opening up to this approach, or maybe they need to? Stop getting
So
their own
it's
way.
It's a combination of both. I
Yeah.
feel like when I opened up my practice, I was telling everybody, look, this is what I'm doing. And
Hmm.
my significant other, at first, he didn't get it. He was like, I don't know if people are going to come. I was like, they'll come. My people will come. I'll
Hmm.
advertise it. And I think because I had already, before I opened, went into private practice, I had pretty much been known to do a lot of these things. And
Mm.
so everyone knew that, okay, hey, if she's doing these things, she did an extensive research, extensive training in this. So let's give it a try. Oftentimes people are like, you know what? I tried these other things, traditional talk therapy, and it didn't
Right,
work. So
right.
then let me come here and talk to someone about this too. People
Mhm,
who might be on a spiritual journey and they might have questions about certain things.
mhm,
I'm able to come to them in a non-judgmental manner
mhm.
and listen to what's going on with them and meeting them again, which is what we talk about in social work, meeting clients where they
They
are.
are. Yep.
And so it then becomes a domino effect, right? Because I always say once one person begins to get their healing, they'll start kind of telling others, and then others begin to tell more. And they're like, you know what? Mom, you're not supposed to be doing this. This means this. And
Uh-huh.
dad, when you're saying this, it means that.
Mm,
And so then they're like, well, who is this person you're going to? So then it led to people beginning coming to talk to me, and then me training other therapists
mm,
on these different practices.
mhm.
And again, just continuing to spread more healing within people of color and just the community in general.
I love it. So healing is contagious, and you are
Hmm.
a part of that. I love it. I love it because it allows it to really kind of hit our community in a larger scale, right? It doesn't have to just stay contained in this one place. I love it. What's like the most, totally not a question, but now I'm just
Sure.
curious. What is the most exciting part about the work that you do?
I like seeing people throughout the journey, right? So it really is a journey, like when somebody first comes in to then when they get that, aha moment,
Yes.
and then watching them, successfully discharge out. Because I tell everybody, I don't want you to be with me forever.
Ever.
I
Yes.
want you to, you know, do well and no longer need me, and if you ever need me again, I'm here. But,
Mhm.
part of my treatment plan with every person is a discharge. So it's
Right.
like, what do I need to do and what needs to be done for you to be successful? And
Mhm.
so watching them on that journey of success has been really, really cool too. And then them learning too more about spirituality and spiritual practices and incorporating meditation and prayer and journaling and just really seeing how they become more attuned, not
Mhm.
only to their bodies and themselves, but then become more attuned with their surroundings as well too.
Beautiful. And so along those lines, what's something that people find surprising about your work as a social worker?
That one, that you could do all this as a social worker.
I know, right? Yes.
Two, that is evidence-based, and so I tell everybody, I'm also a researcher practitioner. And so everything that I have done is backed by research, and I can back the theories, even all the way with my tarot and psychotherapy. So it's just this journey to like have people like heal and things that were colonized. I work on decolonizing things too, because things that were in various peoples of colors culture
Sure.
that then was later said it was wrong is
Right.
now being said it's be great, because a couple years ago they thought yoga and EMDR was like taboo. Now they're saying there's evidence-based work that we've been saying for years
Mhm.
that it can help release things from the body. So
Right.
Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying about things we may see already naturally, like in church, right? And
Mhm.
this idea of like movement and using our body and using sounds, that's really culturally been with us
Mhm.
for a long time, right? So it really isn't new in that sense, and it really isn't different in that sense. So we're just really honing in on what we've been doing and using it to move us along.
I agree.
Yeah. And it does contradict with the typical view of what therapy is when you think about it, or what healing is when you think about it. I think there's still that very um, non-Black version. Right, real dry. And I think that it's been awesome to see that evolve over the years, where we can find our place as clinicians of color as well, and realize that we can step into this space and own it too, and to be able to bring all of ourselves into the space and allow that to change, and for that to be okay too.
Yes.
Yeah, so awesome. So last one for you. Finish the sentence. I wish people understood social workers. Dot dot dot.
Don't take people's children.
We're like little body snatchers or
Yeah,
gremlins.
no, I was probably supposed to have something very deep and profound there, but and social workers are everywhere. I think that's a misconception. People just think that when they think of social workers, we just do one thing, we take people's children, but social workers are everywhere. They can do everything and they're needed for everything.
That is a word. Yeah. Nicole, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for just bringing all of who you are and what you do into this space. Thank you for embracing the many parts of healing and making it available to the community, and making it available just to all of us just by having this conversation. On behalf of the community, as if I have some kind of power as a social worker, we thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're already crowned in excellence, and we appreciate all that you bring to the craft. And to everyone else that's listening, I hope you start to think about us differently. I hope you are even more excited about your healing and knowing that, wow, I can go to a social worker and get all this, because yes, she just told you that you can. But to everyone else, happy Social Work Month, and make sure to listen, like, and share. Thank you again, Nicole.
Thank you.